Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, the original third member of Wham, but he was released due to creative differences because, you see, the famous line, "Wake me up before you go-go," well, he insisted that it should be, "Don't wake me up, just go-go." The very insensitive Captain.
Thank you. It's good to be seen and it's good to see you. Hey, I like my sleep. Rest in peace, George Michael.
I was a fan, Captain. It sounds like you were a fan as well.
Well, that man had golden pipes.
Well, let's tip our 40s to his memory. Today we are drinking Global Warmer by 6 Point Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. Garage grade 4 out of 5 bottle caps. This is a red ale, Imperial Double. This is a different type of winter warmer beer. Global Warmer is cloudy, unfiltered, and hop intensified. Global Warmer is brought to us by some of the nice, warm people that visit our garage each week. First, we have Julie in Corpus Christi, Texas, who says she loves the show and hopes that we continue to do the show for years to come. We also have Craig from Parts Unknown who says, "To keep up the good work, fellas." And next we have Shannon in Zanesville, Ohio. We also have Wendy, whom I'm guessing is probably from Florida because she recommends Swamp Head Brewery in Gainesville, Florida. I'll be in Florida next month and maybe I can get my hands on some of that Swamp Head. We also have Scott who says to check out Turtle Anarchy Saison when we can. And last but not least, we have Rebecca from Fayetteville, Arizona. She thanks us for our hard work and adding that we have changed plane and car travel forever. That's right, we are quite innovative. So cheers to you and thank you all to Julie, Craig, Shannon, Wendy, Scott, and Rebecca for helping us this week. And if you want to buy us around for next week's show or a future show, just go to truecrimegarage.com and click on the donate button.
And like always, we like your Jeep.
And Captain, I have a little announcement to make. Our whole setup here kind of changed for the people that donate to the beer fund each week. For whatever reason, we like to give a shout out back. Pay it back.
Yeah, whatever reason you like to put that money in your pocket.
Well, for whatever reason, our website no longer tells us where the person that kicks into the beer fund is from. So if you want us to give you a shout out and mention your name, just happen to throw in the notes there what city you are located in, and we'll give you a shout out and thank you to everyone who contributed to the beer fund this year.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can do so. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that. I mean, I've been posting some weird Snapchats. They got these weird filters. I turned myself into like a Santa baby, and I think I creeped everybody out. Anyways, you can do so at True Crime Garage.
All right, that's enough of the business. Everybody gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer, and let's talk some true crime.
This is True Crime Garage. And this is the case of Diane Schuler.
Can you give a more detailed description of what happened before she went off on the trip home?
Saturday and
what you had to eat together, what conversation?
Yeah, come to the middle. Right from the moment you woke up.
I woke up at 6 o'clock, went down to my boat to clean it out, do what I got to do. Came back about 6:45, 7 o'clock. I woke her up saying we had to start cleaning the camper so we can start getting home before traffic. She woke up, started packing the bags slowly, started waking the kids up slowly, started getting the kids dressed. We unloaded the camper, all the bags, outside the camper, and I walk them to the car and we load them up. We had a cup of coffee, 2 cups of coffee, and then we left.
Do you remember your last words?
Yeah, I kissed everyone goodbye, and my wife.
Thank you.
We're trying
trying to locate the kids, and the best they could come up with was that they were at the Tarrytown Rec Center. I'm trying to help a friend of mine. His sister took his girls camping. They're very young girls. The oldest is 9. The girls just called in distress. They said that the aunt is driving very erratically. We think she's sick. The aunt isn't picking up the cell phone right now.
The sister called. She can't talk anymore. There's 3 kids in the car. They're trying to locate her. The woman's name is Diane Schuler. And just put it out to the post car. Okay. And see if they could locate her, because the woman that's driving the car, they think, is having a medical emergency because she called and then she couldn't talk anymore. And she's got 5 kids in the car. Need to know whose name the car is registered to.
Warren, yes. This is my car.
It's your car.
Yes. Anyone with me?
Most of you will know that from the trailer and from the sound clips involved in the trailer that today we are talking about the Taconic Parkway crash that took place July 26, 2009. Now you're saying, well, this sounds like an accident, Nick. Why? Sounds like an accident that you're doing the show, but it also sounds like a car accident.
Yeah.
However, we back in at the end of October, we did our very fun Halloween show. If you've not checked that out, go back and check that out. But what we did was we both picked our top 10 favorite true crime documentaries. And after that was released, we had a lot of great feedback from the listeners stating, you've given me documentaries to watch and that I'm excited to check out. Have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? And
overwhelmingly, we got, we should check out There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane.
Yeah, which was originally released on HBO, and I watched it recently on Amazon Prime. So there's some ways to find that out and to watch it for yourself. But as the captain said, we had a ton of people saying this is one of my favorite quote-unquote true crime documentaries. So that's what we will be discussing today. So
and we had one of my buddies, Jess, tell me, you guys shouldn't cover this. This is not a crime. This is, maybe drunk driving, but like you were stating earlier to me, the police then they ruled this a homicide.
Yeah. According to the Westchester Medical Examiner, the crash was quickly ruled a homicide because all of the victims were killed due to Diane's driving, regardless of the toxicology findings that they would come up with weeks after the crash. So to set this up, Diane Schuler is the driver of the vehicle that caused the accident, that caused the crash. And she was born in 1973. She was the 4th child of Warren and Eileen Hance. She's the only girl in the family. When Diane was about 9 years old, her mother left the family. Now, this would be something that she didn't seem to like to talk much about or to go into much detail of. But it sounds like her mother may have left with a neighbor man or a family friend. But after she leaves, Diane kind of takes on some of the mother type roles. I hate to box that into the mother category because it's not mom's job to clean the house or clean the kitchen. So I don't want any of that feedback, but that's what took place in this situation. Her being the only girl, she took on some of those duties that the mother might have generally done beforehand. Now, at some point in their lives, her and her brother's lives, the mother did reappear and reach out to the different children and try to have some type of relationship with them.
Make amends of some kind.
And I'm not certain at what point in their lives this took place, but it sounds like that Diane was not accepting of her mother, where the other children have some sort of relationship with her now. However, once she left the family and left Diane's life, Diane chose not to let her back into hers. Diane is described by friends and family as a very smart woman, hardworking. She seemed to be the take charge kind of person. Her friends and family all said that if there was any kind of situation, regardless of family or what you were out to be doing that day, she was always taking charge of each situation. She, as we said, hardworking. She worked her way up the ladder at a big business. She worked for Cablevision, and she was the director of credit billing and collections, and she earned approximately like $100,000 a year. So she was a driven person. She was successful. She was married to Daniel Schuler, and her and Daniel, they had 2 kids together, and they worked opposite schedules, though. Daniel was a security guy, and he worked, which is, primarily a night job, and that's what he worked. He worked lots of nights. And Diane worked more traditional hours with her job at the Cablevision company. As we said, Daniel and Diane had 2 children. These were young children, a young daughter and young son at the time of this crash. And they also had 3 nieces. And the way that what they were doing this weekend, what led up to this, was they had taken a family camping trip. Okay. Yeah. And they took the 3 nieces along with them. Yeah.
Like the typical, you park your trailer at a little spot, and maybe there's a lake, and the Schulers, they had a boat. So they're going to get out on the boat.
Yeah. It's a summer, it's the summer months. It's July. It's, probably great weather. You get out on the boat with your family and you have a great time. Well, on Sunday, it's time to leave. This is Sunday, July 26th. And around 9:30 a.m., Diane left the Hunter Lake campground. Now, she's driving a 2003 Ford Windstar van. This is a red color van with the ski rack. And it's not her van. It's a vehicle that was borrowed from Warren and Jackie Hance. Warren is her brother. And they are also the parents of the 3 nieces.
Right, 3 daughters.
So in the vehicle with Diane were her 5-year-old son, Brian, her 2-year-old daughter, Erin, and as said, her 3 nieces. This is Emma, who is 8 years old, Allison, who is 7, and Kate, who is only 5 years old. Now, Daniel, her husband, is leaving the campgrounds that day as well at the exact same time, as a matter of fact, but he's in a truck, and he's going to be traveling alone. And a witness at the campground who had seen them that morning and saw them leaving said that everything appeared to be normal. This is just a family packing up and heading home from a great weekend trip.
Well, and like you heard in the trailer, Daniel is talking about their, what happened when they woke up. They woke up, had a cup of coffee, a couple cups of coffee. Then he goes down to the boat. He does what he needs to get done and wraps that all up and probably connects the boat to the truck trailer. And then she's going to take off separate. So again, he's claiming that there was nothing odd about, there was no fight, there was no argument going on. And she packed up the stuff and packed up the kids and went on their way.
And the general idea here is that Daniel's going to head straight home. He's got the truck and he's going to go straight home. And now Diane with the children is going to stop off at McDonald's to get breakfast or get something for her and the kids to eat. So they make their stop at the McDonald's restaurant, and the cashier there says that he remembers seeing Diane and the children and that nothing seemed to be abnormal to him. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because, foreshadowing away, set aside, but he straight up says, she did not seem intoxicated or under the influence of anything, nor does he smell any alcohol on her breath.
Yeah, but I mean, I've gone through McDonald's drive-through at night, intoxicated. I don't promote drinking and driving, but sometimes it happens. Buzz driving is drunk driving. To me, is there much weight to this eyewitness? Not much. And the reason why I think that is because the exchange is going to be so quick.
Right.
You go to window 1, you give your money, you go to window 2, grab your food. How much do you actually talk to the person handing you your food? And
even if you go into the restaurant itself, it's 9:30 on a Sunday.
Right.
I don't even like McDonald's, but I find myself there for breakfast about once.
There's nothing wrong with McDonald's
once every
breakfast.
Other month. Yeah. Because it's convenient and it's there and it's quick. And I'm sure, like said, there's so many people in and out of there that he may or may not have.
By the way, you went to McDonald's today.
I did, by the way. So they stop at the McDonald's and nothing seems to be abnormal to anybody. Now, at 10:46 a.m., Diane stops at a Sunoco gas station. And she goes in and she asks for some kind of pain medication. This would be your typical over-the-counter type pain medication. I don't know what type she specifically asked for. I'm guessing maybe Advil or something of that nature. But for whatever reason, the Sunoco did not carry the pain medication that she was looking for. Now, she did speak with the gas station attendant, and he says that, again, everything seemed normal here. She doesn't seem to be intoxicated or acting strangely to him.
And unless she has an allergy of some kind to a different pain medicine, like to me, if her pain was that bad, if it was a headache, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter if it's Tylenol or Advil. I just normally just use the one that are paying us, to, present their brand to our listeners. But so to me, I find that odd where if she was in pain and they said, well, we don't have this kind, but we have this other kind, then why don't you just take that other kind?
Right.
So,
that seems strange to me because
so maybe she wasn't in that much pain. Maybe this is a headache and again, we won't know this, but what if she wasn't in pain? What if she was stopping to get, pain medicine for one of the kids? Maybe she asked for, and here's the thing with eyewitness accounts. Would this change the whole, speculation and the whole conspiracy and all that kind of stuff with this crash? If she was what if she was asking for children's Tylenol? And then she said, well, we don't have that.
Right.
But she didn't. Then when she's talking to the cops, she doesn't register. All she asks for children's Tylenol.
Yeah, and so far nothing out of the ordinary here. But now the next spot on the timeline is where things start to seem weird to me. So now that we're at 11:37 a.m. and Diane, using her cell phone, calls Jackie Hance. This is the mother of the nieces that are traveling with her, and she calls basically just to say, we're running later than we expected. I'll have the girls home later than expected. The reason why this starts to get weird to me here, Captain, is it's 11:37. According to Daniel, they left the campground at 9:30. So now we're over the 2-hour mark since they've been gone. And I've heard that this is supposed to be like a 35-minute, maybe 40-minute trip home. I understand that they stopped at the McDonald's and now they're making a second stop at the Sunoco. But still, we're starting to see an amount of time elapse that seems a little more than necessary to me.
Yeah, well, I think one, like I tell everybody, go forward 5 minutes or back 5 minutes, and you're going to be a little off. But I mean, McDonald's parking, it's not a drive-through, at 9:30 in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a parking lot. So how long did they spend there? I don't know.
They could have stayed and ate there or ate in the car. That would take up some time, especially these being young children. You would have to help them, assist them, make sure that you don't end up with ketchup smeared all over the back seat.
Yeah, or you stop and you eat in the parking lot and then you take everybody in to use the restroom. So, I mean.
But again, I'm starting to see a time elapse here that seems a little more than necessary.
Seems a little fishy.
Well, at 12 p.m. at noon, by this time, Diane and...
All right, well, quick question. When she makes the phone call to the girl's mother, is she able to, finish the conversation? It's like a complete conversation?
Yeah, it's a complete conversation, basically just stating that they're running later than expected and she'll have the girls home later than expected.
Okay.
By noon, they have made their way. This is Diane in the red Ford Windstar van along with the children. They've made their way to Interstate 87. Now, we have an eyewitness here as well. His name is Gerald Salerno, and he is driving in a vehicle as well. He's traveling south on Interstate 87 when he says that a vehicle came up on him rather quickly. This is the red Ford Windstar van. And the vehicle started jumping back and forth between two lanes.
Yeah, it's going from the right lane to the center lane, back to the right lane.
Exactly. And the vehicle's changing lanes very aggressively.
But he also claims that it was precise, that it wasn't
wasn't swerving or
aggressively shift the lanes.
More like somebody trying to get somewhere fast.
Right.
aggressively changing lanes, and he can see the driver. It's a female driver, and she appears to be holding onto the wheel as normal. But he says intensely focusing on the road is what he could tell. This is the first incident where we start having reports of something going on in the vehicle, that there's some erratic driving going on. That leads us to 12:13 p.m. We have another eyewitness involved here. Now we're at the location of the Harriman Toll Plaza. Now, the eyewitness here is Francis Bagley, and he's driving in his vehicle, and his vehicle is in front of the red Ford Windstar van, and he states that Diane's car, the van, was so close to his that he could not see her headlights, so she's tailgating him, basically.
Oh, that's the worst.
And he can't see her headlights, and she starts to honk the car at Francis in his vehicle. And
honk the horn.
And she's honking, honking as if to tell him to get out of the way. And at some point, she pulls out onto the shoulder as if she's going to pass him in that way. However, she does not pass him. Instead of passing him, she just simply pulls back into the lane, and once again, she is behind Francis. Now, Francis describes the driving to his wife that's with him. He says, well, this person must be some kind of nut. Right. Because, she's all over the road. She's honking the horn at me, and she's trying to pass using the shoulder. This is some kind of nut that's behind
Well, right. But, I think we all can agree. People that use their horn excessively are crazy people. It's like when you're sitting at a light and it turns green and somebody starts honking right away.
Right.
Like, shut up. Okay? Just shut up. Get up. That is not what the purpose of the horn is for.
Well, she continues to honk the horn at Francis's car.
Don't be that person.
And this is as he is pulling off of the throughway there.
Right.
And they're going to a rest stop. Now, this is one of those larger rest stops, the kind where there's a parking section for the semi-trucks and parking for regular vehicles. Now, Francis and his wife, Jean, they continue straight ahead, which leads them to the general parking area. And Diane, who is still behind them, she now actually pulls off into the truck parking area. This is where Jean sees Diane open up the door to the van, and Diane gets out of the van, and she says that Diane was possibly getting sick, maybe possibly throwing up. Jean sees Diane kind of hunched over in a manner that would allude that she's probably getting sick on the side of the road. Yeah,
physically ill. And so then the whole thing is that they go into the rest stop, and then when they come out, they're thinking, well, maybe we're going to see her, and then maybe we'll confront her. At this point, they're not very sure that there's children in the vehicle.
Right, because all they see is Diane. And as the captain said, Francis and Jean say that they did not see Diane or see the driver or the vehicle again because Francis had every intention of confronting the driver, and saying, hey, maybe back it off a little bit, Yeah,
or stop being an asshole.
Yeah,
right.
But he doesn't have that opportunity. At 12:55 p.m., this is where we start seeing some more activity with Diane's phone. There is a wrong number that is called and dialed from Diane's phone. Shortly after that, this puts us at 1:01 p.m.
They kind of don't go over this point, but to me, I wonder, is it one of those phones where you just like dial the numbers, and then once you get to a certain number, it just dials? Maybe it's a pocket dial. You know what I mean? Or was it like an area code that somewhat made sense?
Yeah. Or is it she's misdialing the phone because she's getting sick? And right. Getting sick is no easy thing. You can't really do a whole lot of other things when you're going through that.
Yeah, especially if it's vomiting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so at 1:01 p.m., Diane calls Warren Hance. Now, remember, this is Diane's brother. And on this call, Diane, as described as Warren, he says that she sounds disheveled, almost incoherent at times. And she even calls her brother, Warren, she calls him Daniel, which, of course, is Diane's husband's name. Warren is concerned because he can hear the kids in the background, and they sound like they are crying. And he is getting extremely worried about the children and his sister. So he tells her, you know what, Diane, it sounds like you got something going on here. Why don't you stay put, and I will come up there and I will go and get you and I will get the kids. It's also around this time that the oldest niece, remember this is 8-year-old Emma, she is on the phone with her parents, and she is saying that there is something wrong with Aunt Diane. And that, so she's on the phone with either her father or mother or both, and she's telling them a few different things, that Aunt Diane can't see, and that there's something wrong with Aunt Diane. Now, remember, Warren had just shortly got off the phone with Diane stating, stay where you are.
Right.
I'm going to come and get you and get the kids.
Well, let's get back to this timeline right after this quick break. And we're back.
And where we left off, we had just talked about these phone calls that are happening. Okay, so we have the call with Emma. She's the oldest girl. She's only 8 years old. She's in the Ford Windstar van with Diane, who's driving. And she's called her parents to say that there's something wrong with Aunt Diane, that she can't see, and it sounds like they're in need of help here. Yeah. Now, Diane was on the phone with Warren, her brother, and this is the phone call where Warren says that she sounded incoherent and that she's calling him by the wrong name.
Yeah.
And he can hear the children crying in the background. And this phone call only takes place for about 2 to 2.5 minutes, and it ends pretty abruptly here. At 1:10 p.m., someone dials 3 wrong numbers from Diane's phone. We'd already seen the call take place earlier where a wrong number was dialed from her phone. Now we're seeing 3. This is happening 3 times now, shortly after 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
At 1:15, Warren is trying to reach his sister. He's calling her back. But
think about this panic state.
Yeah.
I mean, your sister, which we have, from all the accounts in the documentary, it seems like, pretty normal mother, pretty normal person. And now you're trying to get a hold of her, and she's, talking gibberish on your last call. Now you're trying to get a hold of her, and it's mainly going straight to voicemail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, not only pretty normal person, but we had said driven, and we're seeing a situation where her and her husband don't work the same hours. And so she's probably the mom that's putting in the more time and carrying the heavy load of being a mother and the parent and taking care of the kids while he's working nights. And not only that, she must be a good parent, because who would let their 3 daughters go with her on a weekend camping trip if she wasn't,
Right.
So this is something that's of a surprise to Warren. And like you said, the panic here, you're on the other end of the phone and you don't know what's going on. You have no control over what's happening on the other end. Mm-hmm. And you're only getting information from your daughter, who's very young, that doesn't really know what's going on, and from your sister, who is not making any sense to you. Mm-hmm. You have the situation where you're concerned about what's going on, yet you have no control over it, and your children are there, and
they could be in danger.
Yeah. And at 1:15 p.m., as we said, Warren's trying to reach his sister, and this phone call just goes straight to her voicemail. By this time, Diane has made it just past the Tappan Zee Bridge toll area, and there is a little pull-off section there where you can pull your car off. And she must have pulled off there because later someone would find Diane's cell phone on one of those like waist-high barrier divider type things. She had placed her phone on top of that barrier while pulled over. It is also thought that she may have been getting sick again at this time. To this point, her route is just really what you would expect her to take, the route from the campground to her home. And that's what's strange here to me, because here she is en route going from the campgrounds to her home, and it's taking a considerable amount of time again.
Well, right, but we have her stopping at the rest stop. Now she's stopping at the shoulder.
But to our knowledge, she's not lost, or she's not taking a wrong turn or anything like that. Mm-hmm. She is following the route pretty well here, but it's at about this time that Diane would veer off of that route. Authorities are not quite sure what route Diane would have taken to get to the Taconic State Parkway area, as there are several options for this. But by this time, she is now nearing the Taconic State Parkway area, and she is no longer en route to her home. After these strange phone calls, and Diane and the kids are being gone much longer than expected, Diane's brother James and Diane's husband Daniel, they are now out driving, and they are going to go out looking for Diane. Now, Diane is seen driving on an exit ramp. Now, this is where cars are trying to exit the state parkway, and she is basically using the exit ramp to enter the state parkway. Peter and Elaine Royal are driving that day. They're attempting to exit off of the state parkway, and they encounter Diane, who is driving right at them, almost like they're not even there, like she doesn't see them at all. Now, Peter, who is driving, he starts flashing his lights and hitting the car horn and trying to let the other vehicle know, you're in our way. We're trying to get off of this ramp here, and you're going the wrong way. And basically, she keeps going straight at them, directly at them, and they are forced off the road and into the grass just to avoid a collision. Peter and Elaine then see Diane's vehicle go around the bend and onto the Taconic State Parkway.
So now Diane has the vehicle, the van with the children in the vehicle, and she's heading south in the northbound lane. And now we're going to start getting a bunch of phone calls to 911 claiming, hey, some lunatic is out here driving the wrong way on the freeway.
Yeah, and some of those calls, they're going to report the vehicle traveling at about 70 mile per hour, going the wrong way. And so let's think about this. Diane she drives 1.7 miles the wrong way in the fast lane, mind you. So she is only on the parkway for less than 2 minutes traveling at that speed. She hits a vehicle. The Ford Windstar van hits a vehicle, and this vehicle is like a gray Chevy Trailblazer type vehicle. And inside that vehicle, there are 3 men in there. Guy Bastardi, he's 49 years old. Michael Bastardi, who's 81, and Daniel Longo, who's 74. It's a head-on collision. So if she's going 70 mile per hour, we could assume that the other vehicle's probably traveling about that same rate of speed. Yeah. So they're both traveling and they hit each other head on. And so that's 2 vehicles hitting one another at 140 miles per hour. Now, Guy Bastardi's vehicle then hits a third vehicle. Diane's van then travels off the road down the hill, and it begins to burn. The van is, by the time that people can reach this van to try to assist, the van is like fully engulfed in flames. The front of the vehicle is fully engulfed in flames. Yeah. And there are 2 gentlemen. These are, let's tag them Good Samaritans. They are going to try to save Diane and the kids. And they are attempting to pull the driver and the passengers from the burning vehicle. Now, they do have some trouble with this. These doors aren't going to open very easily. If anybody's seen a picture of this vehicle, it was in terrible condition. But they are able to somehow get the driver out, who is Diane, and her body pretty much just kind of like falls out of the vehicle, and she's not showing any signs of life at all. Now, the kids are in another portion of the vehicle, and the way that these 2 gentlemen describe it is that they're kind of just like piled up on one another. And they are going to start pulling the children from the vehicle and checking their vital signs. And as they're doing so, the men are realizing that just like the driver, that the child passengers seem to be dead as well. They're not responding to anything. When the men get to the bottom of the pile, they find the body of a little boy, but he is actually still alive, thank God, and he's fighting for his life. The men then check the other vehicles. They go over to the gray Trailblazer, and this is where they find Guy Bastardi, Michael Bastardi, and Daniel Longo. They find those 3 gentlemen, and they are all deceased at this point. Also on that day, along with the 3 gentlemen that were in the gray Trailblazer, we also have Diane Schuler, the driver of the van. She was 36. She passed away that day, as well as her daughter, Erin, and her 3 nieces, which are Kate, Allison, and Emma.
So we have this horrific scene. We have 8 dead. It seems like there are 8 dead at the scene. We now have all these weird events that happened prior to this. We have all the eyewitnesses accounts of Diane driving on the wrong side of the road. And now it becomes, well, what happened? We need answers for this.
Yeah, we need to figure out why there are 8 people who have lost their lives. We have one sole survivor, which is Brian, which is Diane's son. He suffered several broken bones and a severe head injury and trauma. And he ends up remaining, he's in the hospital for over 2 months. He, like I said, he sustained a serious head injury in the crash. And as a result, he suffers from nerve palsy in his eye, which affects the movement in his right eye. And of course, he's undergone surgeries and stuff like that to try to help him recover from that injury. But as said, we need to figure out why. Okay, why was Diane driving like this? Why was she going the wrong way on a road she had probably been on several times before? Yes, she is driving a vehicle that may be strange to her.
Right.
You ever notice that when you borrow somebody's car, you don't really know how to turn on the windshield wipers, or maybe you accidentally turn on the lights instead of the windshield wipers.
Yeah, but you're not going to drive the wrong way on a freeway because you're borrowing a car.
Right.
And my initial thought on all this is, some kind of stroke. That's what it seems like to me. Maybe, with the children, claiming that she's having a hard time seeing, and she seems disoriented on some level. So is it a stroke? Is it an oncoming heart attack? But what's so strange for me is, why does she keep driving? Why doesn't she stop?
Yeah.
And then when we talk about when she goes onto this different path, because I don't know the area, is she trying to reach somebody? And was it that she felt bad and felt sick and thought, well, I'm just going to try to get home. And then at some point it's like, I can't get home. And it's that fight or flight mentality. And it's now I'm going to just try to get help. I'm going to try to go to the hospital or something. But if it's a stroke, maybe, and again, I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I'm a captain. Okay. I know about boats. That's about it. But, is she so disillusional from this onset of a stroke? But wouldn't we be able to see that in the medical records?
Yeah. Well, and they, and the other thing too is, why did this trip that should have taken about 35 minutes, plus some time for stopping off, but we're talking 4 hours. The crash took place at 1:35 p.m.
Right.
They left at 9:30. This is 4 hours has elapsed here. So let me introduce the attorney that the Schuler family would be working with after the accident. His name is Dominic Barber, and some people might know him from the Howard Stern show. He used to be, I don't know if he was friends with Howard Stern or if he was a friend of the show, but he used to be on there from time to time. He's kind of a let's say lawyer to some stars, maybe some entertainers.
Okay.
But he would come out very shortly afterwards with a press conference, and him and Daniel, Diane's husband, are going to say that we don't understand what happened, because in the autopsy that followed, they did an autopsy the day after the crash.
Yeah.
And it was pretty quickly determined that she had some things in her system that she had alcohol in her system.
So let's
she
go
had
over that
THC in her system.
So she had a blood alcohol level of 0.9, which is roughly about 10 drinks. Now, I don't know if that's 10 beers or 10 shots. There was a bottle of vodka found in the van. So one could assume that if she was drinking, that's what she was drinking, 0.9. And then she was also found with some THC in her system as well.
It's 0.19.
0.19.
Yeah,
okay.
0.9, she would have expired a long time before. But so blood alcohol content for her was 0.19. And she also tested high for a high level of THC. And as the captain said, we're talking about, to get to that level, it's approximately, you got to factor in weight and all these other things. But once you figure that out, it factors in that she probably had about 10 alcoholic drinks.
Well, I'm operating at 0.9 all the time.
Well, we all know from health class, but, let's review real quick what that alcohol level means for most or all of us. So 0.06 to 0.10%. What you will experience is reduced information processing, impaired reflexes, impaired depth perception, the inability to judge distances, your peripheral vision and speed control. All those things are going to be impaired. Now, once you get a little bit higher, from 0.11 to 0.20%, you have everything that we just talked about, plus your reaction time is now severely impaired. Yeah. Your motor control is severely impaired, and you are probably staggering and experiencing slurred speech. Now, 0.3 to 0.39, it is likely that you will die at that level. So she's at 0.19. That should give you an idea of the level of intoxication that she had. Now that we mentioned the THC on top of that, keep in mind that alcohol increases the absorption of THC, meaning that it can enhance it. So they believe, due to the high THC levels, that she would have smoked marijuana or ingested marijuana sometime between 15 minutes to 1 hour before the crash took place.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all confusing to me because, again, I mean, the husband is saying, yeah, okay, well, she would smoke pot occasionally and she would drink occasionally. So this is very abnormal. And again, I don't know, maybe she had a migraine or something. Maybe she's trying to self-medicate. It's kind of a very strange thing to be driving kids and trying to self-medicate. She doesn't seem to be that type of person.
Well, the family's attorney, as well as the husband, would say that Diane is not an alcoholic. She was not an alcoholic. She rarely had a drink. Mm-hmm. They both claim that Diane's erratic driving was due to a medical issue. They believe she may have suffered a stroke.
Right.
They also have stated that Diane suffered from diabetes, but this is rumored to have been just gestational diabetes, which is like a temporary condition. It's not, chronic condition.
Well, I'm just going to go off on a rant for a minute. I had a really good friend of mine, guy that was in good shape, played at gigs with him. He would drive down from Cleveland, and he was not diagnosed with diabetes, and he was driving home and pretty much was hallucinating. Again, I'm not a freaking doctor, so don't judge me. But he was driving home and basically like hallucinating. And he didn't have any clue of what's happening. Pretty much was blacking out, and then he pulls over on the side of the road or almost wrecks. And a 2-hour drive. It took him hours and hours and hours to get home. Mm-hmm. Same type of situation. Now, he didn't go, on to head-on traffic or anything, but then because of that incident, he was checked out, and then he was diagnosed with diabetes. Mm. So that, was her condition getting worse and on another onset?
Yeah, but we have the autopsy that's conducted just the day after the crash.
Right.
Okay.
And now, that's red flags everywhere.
Yeah. And the family and the attorney are bringing up all these possible health issues or a health reason being the cause for her driving that day. Mm-hmm. They even bring up a tooth abscess that she had for about 7 weeks prior to her death. Apparently this was something that was going untreated. But in the actual autopsy, they specifically state that the medical examiner found that Diane had not suffered from a stroke, an aneurysm, or a heart attack.
Right.
So those three things are ruled out right there. And what the glaring red flags are here is the alcohol level as well as the THC levels.
Well, and what's confusing is there's a part of you that doesn't want to believe that this autopsy is real. You know what I mean? Like they make these claims and then maybe they're just wrong. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they got mixed up somehow. This paperwork got shuffled with this paperwork. Wrong name. different autopsy. That is a possibility. The likelihood of that, I would say, is pretty slim to none.
Right. And then we have the finding of the vodka bottle.
Right. Which the husband claims, we have a vodka bottle and it's in the camper. And, we'd go out and, at night when the kids go to sleep, we might have a couple drinks. That's pretty normal. Mm-hmm. He thought it was odd that it was in the van.
Yeah.
So here's a little clip of the husband being interviewed by Larry King talking about this vodka bottle.
Daniel, how do you explain the vodka?
We usually will keep it in our camper throughout the whole season. One bottle.
Why?
You have pina coladas. You
sit by a campfire,
right,
cooking marshmallows.
What was the vodka bottle doing in the car?
My wife packed all the bags that day in the camper and leaves them by the door. I carry them from the camper to the trucks. I'm very surprised that the vodka bottle was in there. I had no idea. I don't know why she brought it home.
Does it give you pause to think that maybe, just maybe, she was a drinker and you didn't know it?
I've been with her for 13 years. Absolutely not.
Daniel, why appear here? Why keep on doing this?
The truth will come out.
But Larry, you have to understand, Danny doesn't want the other families to think that a drunk driver killed their families. That's why we are out to prove that she wasn't drunk.
So basically, we have this autopsy saying that she had this high blood alcohol level, and then she also had some weed in her system. Mm-hmm. And now we have this husband saying, okay, again, we're going to try to, this is not true. So maybe there's that possibility that the autopsy is just, they messed up somehow, did the wrong autopsy on the wrong person. The likelihood of that doesn't seem like much. And then in the documentary, you see a psychologist talk about sometimes when a tragic event happens that people go on the other side of the spectrum. So all this bad thing happened, now they're dead, and now we don't think anything bad of them, and we go to sainthood, right? So she was a saint, she was this great mother, and maybe there was some things that were going on in her life and the husband didn't know. Mm-hmm. And that's a good possibility. And then if with this abscess tooth, anybody that's had a root canal or needed a root canal, that is one of the most painful things that you can go through. And maybe it was only for a couple weeks, and she's now driving home and she's in a bunch of pain. And for some reason, if I take a couple shots, maybe that helps. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't know how much pain she was in. I mean, we know that she stopped to get some kind of Advil or something, but it's, it doesn't much of this doesn't line up.
But that also brings up a good point here. Could she have been a functioning alcoholic without her husband knowing? Is he just going on the forefront here and taking one for the team and standing up for her, covering up her, things, her bad things for her now that she's gone, or did he not even know?
Well, and like we talked about before, they worked opposite schedules, so it is possible.
And I agree with that statement and I'll tell you what, here's the thing too, for alcoholics that are hiding their alcoholism, vodka can be the choice alcohol.
Yeah, right. Because and you normally don't smell it. And so you go through.
It's clear. You don't smell it. It's something that you can kind of put in everything else that you drink. I have firsthand an experience with a person,
alcoholism.
Well, no, with a person that was hiding their alcoholism, and now thank God this person is in great health and has fully recovered and no longer drinks. But for years, this guy he drank and he hid it from his family, and he used to. What he would do is vodka was his choice as well, because not because he loved vodka, but because he could hide it easily from the family. And he would go outside to take a smoke break, and he would keep a bottle hidden in the garage or outside somewhere. He'd go outside and smoke a cigarette and chug a little bit of vodka each time. Well, they only caught on to this because eventually he started falling over and having some health problems. But he was able to hide this from them for years.
Well, my big question is this the vodka bottle from the camper?
Right.
You know, because the family is not going to come out and go, well, you know what? We looked in the camper and guess what? We saw a bottle of vodka. Because that, to me, if there's still a bottle of vodka in the camper and there was one in the van, and we'll never know that because they do have an agenda. I mean, they say so at the end of that clip. We're coming out. We're trying to prove. We're going to prove that she was having a stroke or something and she was an alcoholic or she didn't have a drug problem. And again, maybe that drug problem wasn't, her mother left her. I don't know why her mom left her. Maybe her mother had a drinking problem. Who knows? And she didn't talk about it. And this husband didn't, bring it up and didn't pry into this, which, whatever. I think you should know your wife a little bit better than that. But maybe her mom had some drinking problems. Who knows? But that's a very good possibility.
There's also a possibility that this bottle of vodka had nothing to do with a bottle that was in the camper. Maybe there wasn't even a bottle in the camper. Maybe this bottle could have just been something she kept stashed away in her own belongings or in the vehicle that she was driving, that it was in fact something that she was hiding from everybody.
Right. Now, the other question is the weed. We have alcohol that was found in her system, 0.19, and then now we have this weed, which would be more potent because she was drinking, is what the coroner was saying. So this is the husband's answer about the weed.
On a rare occasion, she would, but definitely not that weekend. Absolutely not.
Was it something she used to relax? Was it something she used for stress? Was it something she used for
on an occasion
fun,
on an occasion to relax? That's all not true. Everything you hear is not true.
When did she use marijuana? Did she use it when she was at work? Did she use it?
No. It was, I think, mostly to be able to get a good night's sleep. I think it was after everything was done, clothes were ironed, laundry's done, kids are in bed, books are read, everything was done, and maybe she'd have some before she went to sleep. It wasn't like you would ever think you never look at her and think she smoked pot, but some people do.
Did she ever discuss it with you, like why she took it or what was it?
No, I just knew that she smoked.
Okay, somebody please tell me what a weed person looks like, because that's what I hear in the interview. If you looked at her, she didn't look like somebody that smoked the weed. What does a weed person look like? Well, first of all, and then the husband, this is what drives me nuts, is the husband says, occasionally she smoked the pot. Occasionally she do that. But she didn't look like a weed person, right? Okay. And then at the end of the interview, that lady is saying, well, but I knew she smoked pot. So she obviously smoked enough pot that this person was well aware of it. More aware of it than it seems like the husband was. Yeah. Again, I think this is the sanctum thing. She never would have done this.
Well, here's a couple things that I noticed about that clip in particular. Okay. There was more telling things about that of the THC clip than the alcohol clip for me. And here's the two things that pointed out. One is what I didn't hear in the clip. Okay. When I read the report, the medical examiner's report that says to have a THC level that was that high, she must have consumed the marijuana within 15 minutes to an hour before the crash. Well, that puts her in the company of 4 children.
Yeah. What
I did not hear in that clip was her husband saying, yeah, she smoked pot, but she would have never have done it around the children. I didn't hear that in the clip because my first thought is, we all know people that smoke some weed, but here's the thing. Do we know people? Do I know people that smoke weed around their children? No, because I wouldn't be friends with those people.
Right.
You know what I mean? That would be the first big red flag to me saying these are small children. These are small children. And I don't know how the editor cut up this soundbite or took his interview and cut it up. But the thing is, I wanted to hear that in that clip.
No,
I wanted to hear that she would have never done that in front of the children because you spend the whole documentary telling me what a good mother and what a good wife and a good person she was. However, I did not hear she would have never have done that in front of the children. Now, what I did hear in that clip was the sister-in-law stating that, well, yeah, she smoked it sometimes to get a good night's sleep. Well, that was a red flag to me too. Why? Because of something you and I had discussed earlier. We had said Daniel says his wife is not an alcoholic. Daniel says that his wife only smokes weed occasionally.
Right.
Daniel is at work 4 or 5, maybe 6 nights a week at nighttime when she is done with her workday, when she is done taking care of the children. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? Could she been smoking pot and drinking every night after she put the young children to bed and black out, or have some horrible alcoholism problem or addiction problems that he was unaware of?
It's possible.
I think it's possible because of their separate schedules.
Well, and also, I mean, he's a man. You know, how much is he paying attention to his wife? I don't know. I'm just going to assume not a lot.
Right.
You know, but I mean, that's just where I'm going with. And but I think we throw people under the bus. Like, I mean, people drink around their kids, and we don't shame them super hard. You know, I think. I'm not saying that you should be, passing a joint around when your kids are in the room, but no, this is just very odd.
Now, after hiring the attorney, the family would then hire a private investigator or investigative firm to they want to discredit the autopsy findings, and they want to bring to light that their mom and their wife was not an alcoholic. She was not drunk. She was not high when this crash happened, that this was there was some kind of medical reason for this crash.
Right, which makes a lot of logical sense. I mean, like I said, the thing about the diabetes or a stroke or something of that nature. And I'm not faulting the husband, because if the husband is not aware of this stuff, then how can he address the problem? And so this could essentially be the first time that he's actually hearing about this being a problem. And what he's going off is, if he loves this person and obviously loved his kids, and one of his kids died in it, and the other kid, went through, all these surgeries and almost didn't make it. And then his 3 nieces died in this. Mm-hmm. So I'm not faulting him for going, well, what the fuck happened? Right. And if it is the first time of him learning about any of this, then his first reaction is going to be I can't believe it. Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. It's just like when somebody, is married and their spouse is living a separate life, maybe for a year, maybe for a couple years. And when it all comes out in the wash, they can't believe it because they didn't see it coming. And maybe that is what's happening here. It's just with an addiction problem.
Yeah, but there's also that level of denial too amongst the survivors. But back to the private investigator, the Schuler family, they hired Tom Ruskin and his investigative firm. Mm-hmm. They end up complaining quite a bit about this investigative firm and Tom Ruskin. They really don't think that he did anything other than take their money.
Obviously, the family wants answers, right? But this seems like it's very spearheaded by Jay Schuler, the other aunt, the sister-in-law of Daniel. And so when they get this lawyer involved and they get this investigator involved, the investigator starts asking for $10,000, $15,000, and she has to get the other family members involved in order to pay for this.
Yeah, I think he ends up charging them close to $30,000 in the end.
Right, and what did he do? I'm not really for sure. And this guy just seems kind of like a scumbag, because in the documentary, when the filmmakers are trying to get him to do an interview, it's just not worth our time. $25,000 to be on a documentary. Yeah. Like, documentaries don't make any money. They don't have any Ken Burns is not some billionaire.
I'll do a documentary for $1,500.
I'll do one for $50 in a case of beer.
I agree with you, Captain. When they play that part where Tom Ruskin's on the phone with the documentarian and being asked if he would present the story or his findings to the documentary, mm-hmm. and he gives that answer of, well, they want $20,000 or $25,000 to be on the documentary. That was a very slime ball answer, in my opinion. I understand that you want to get paid for your time and that you are running a business, but you've already been paid by the family. This benefits the family. You were paid to release your findings to the family. So it was a very slimeball answer, in my opinion. Now, he would go on to state that the investigation included interviewing Diane's family and friends, canvassing the campground and the driving route for leads, and obtaining the video footage from the Sunoco station. And according to Tom Ruskin, all monies were spent on those activities as well as additional lab tests. Now, I will say those lab tests are not cheap, first of all.
Right.
And second of all, to his credit, they did find, his investigative firm found the surveillance footage at the Sunoco. That was not something that was presented by anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, a slimeball answer, but at the end of the day, who knows? I mean, there's three sides to every story, right? His side, their side, and the truth. And it could be just that, Jay Schuler or whoever hounded him so much and maybe was so rude to him that he just thought, you know what, I did a bunch of work. You don't think I did. I was paid for that work, and now you're asking me for more stuff, and I'm just done with this all.
Well, and the results of those additional lab tests that they conducted were the same results that the medical examiner's office came up with originally. So here you run into a problem of, okay, I work for you. You've paid me X amount of dollars to help you get to the truth of this matter. Unfortunately, the conclusion I came to is what we already knew. The truth has not changed, in my opinion. And so I'm now telling you something that you don't want to hear, so you're dissatisfied with my investigation because it didn't have the outcome or the results that you were looking for.
That you wanted. Or is this guy such a slimeball that he charges them for these tests and never has new tests done? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't find any evidence of that, but I want to put, if he is a slimeball, I want to put that past a slimeball.
Right. I do want to point out that it has been reported that Daniel accepted an offer. They did this documentary, and that he accepted an offer for $100,000 from that film company to do what would end up being the HBO documentary. This was back in 2010. Now, I'm not going to fault Daniel for this at all.
No, he's a single father now.
He's a single father, and I do believe that there's a part of him that believes that there's more truth out there and that he didn't have the ability to do that on his own. And I think he thought maybe this documentary would give him the answers he was looking for. I think what ends up happening is he gets reminded of the answers he didn't want to hear in the first place. But I don't fault him for taking the money because, as you said, he's a single father. There's an investigative firm to pay that costs you almost $30,000.
Well, and there's
surgeries for your son.
Right.
And on top of that, there's going to be lawsuits that are going to end up being filed. In December of 2010, the Bastardi family filed a lawsuit against Diane Schuler and against her brother Warren Hance, who now he was the owner of the vehicle.
Right.
And now some people, if you're involved in civil suits and things like that, you will know that any good attorney will tell you that if I'm walking down the street and the lamppost falls on me, well, I don't just sue the person that owned the house that owned the lamppost. I'm to sue the homeowner. I'm to sue the
manufacturer.
City. I'm to sue the manufacturer of the lamppost. Yeah. Maybe even the manufacturer of the light bulb. They will reach out and they will sue everybody because you're hoping to get rewarded some money outside of court, or that these other proceedings will enhance the original lawsuit.
Right, but you're suing the father of these three young girls.
Yeah, you're suing her estate.
Yes,
and it's rough, I think, to sue the Warren brother.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The estate, fine, but you're suing the brother that just lost his three daughters, and to me, that's wrong.
In July of 2011, Jackie Hance, she filed a lawsuit against her brother-in-law, Daniel Schuler. This would be the mother of the three nieces. So we have all kinds of legal proceedings that need to take place and lawsuits that need to be dealt with. There's really nothing good that can come of this. I don't think that anybody's going to get the answers that they want. I think at the end of the day, She was intoxicated. She was high. Can I prove that? No. Other than the toxicology test.
I mean, you can, the autopsy. That's the proof.
What I mean is I can't say she was drinking vodka in the van. Right. I can't say that she was smoking a joint in front of the kids. I can't say any of that because we don't know that for certain. But we have the lab test.
Well, and will the son ever remember?
Yeah.
You know, the son might one day say, no, I do remember her drinking. Who knows?
Yeah, the only real statement that they've passed along that he seems to say when they've pushed him for answers as to what had happened was that he said something to the nature that she had hurt her head or that she was having trouble seeing, right. Which was reported by one of the nieces on the phone as well. I think what we have here, Captain, is we have 4 hours that passed, and we have a lot of that time that's not accounted for. And I think that during that time is when she was consuming alcohol and right. when she was consuming marijuana. Now, according to the documentary, she's a very good mom. She's a very good person. She's a very good wife. I believe all three of those things. Mm-hmm. I've seen pictures of these children. None of them appeared to be malnourished or abused or not taken care of appropriately. Right. I think all that was going on. I think she was a hard worker. I think she was a good mom. She was a good wife, just not on that day. Not that day she wasn't.
Right.
And I apologize, but that's what I see here.
Yeah, and I think the only, if there was some weird medical thing that was happening and that caused the drinking or that caused the smoking, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't, doesn't make any logical sense to get to that point. At the end of the day, this is this horrible, tragic thing, and these children lost their lives. The mother lost their life.
The three innocent men.
The three innocent men, and the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, that's. Could you imagine? What their families are going through. It's this sad, tragic event, and my hearts go out for everybody that's involved. And hopefully, again, I went to say hopefully there's answers, but I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if she was a drunk driver or if it was a medical thing. Maybe it matters as far as like a civil lawsuit and all that stuff, but it doesn't bring back these individuals.
I was pleased to see at the end of the documentary they were talking about Brian. Brian is the little boy that survived the crash. I was happy to see that he apparently is receiving counseling. And that he's going to some form of counseling. I hope that they see that through, because here's the thing, man. Warren and Jackie, I hope I got their names right. But the mother and father of the three nieces,
right?
They lost all three. They lost all their children that day.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a big advocate. You are as well for counseling and for seeking out help and talking about things and working through things. I don't know that there's any way through that.
I mean, the pain of losing a child is something that people, unless you've gone through it yourself, you have no idea of what you have to deal with mentally.
And they lost all of them that day. I don't know that there's any getting through that. Now, but the thing is here, Brian, yes, he lost his mother. Yes, he lost his sister. But he's at a young enough age that with the right amount of counseling, with the right help, this doesn't have to ruin his life as well. Mm-hmm. That he may be able to recover from this and live a normal life. And
here's the thing. Would I recommend watching the documentary? It's depressing.
It's a Debbie Downer.
It's more than a Debbie Downer. I mean, it's horribly depressing. Was it a crime? Yes, there was a crime involved. There was homicides, vehicular homicide, but it is a crime. This, like we said, this was suggested by the listeners in overwhelming amounts, and so I blame you guys for suggesting it and making me super sad that day. So thanks a lot for that.
Well, and to kind of underline, was this a crime or not? I can read you the statement from the medical examiner. According to the Westchester medical examiner, the crash was quickly ruled a homicide because of all of the victims were killed due to Diane's driving regardless of toxicology findings. In August 18, 2009, this is less than a month after the crash, the Westchester District Attorney said no charges will be filed in the incident as Diane Schuler was the only person responsible, and Diane Schuler died in the crash, and the charges died that day with her.
Right. Again, it's an interesting documentary, but I don't think that outweighs the horrific nature and the horrific tragedy is with the innocent men losing their lives and these innocent children as well. All right, I'm officially depressed. Do we have any recommended reading this week?
This week, I would like to recommend Bloodstains by Jeff Mudgett.
Well, this sounds like a happy book.
Well, this might take your mind elsewhere because this is based on a true story. Well, you say, well, that's weird for True Crime Garage to recommend a based on a true story book. But there are some... this is a very good story. And when I get into it here in a second, you'll realize why. But he says because there are some things and worried about some people coming after him, that it was listed as fiction. But to him, it's a true story. So you have to read this and figure out if you believe his story or not. Mm-hmm. And what is this story about? So according to this book, Jeff Mudgett is the great-great-grandson of Herman Webster Mudgett, who is better known to you and I as Dr. H.H. Holmes. And in Jeff Mudgett's book, Bloodstains, Jeff says that he has some insider knowledge that H.H. Holmes lived longer than anyone thinks, that H.H. Holmes was not put to death, and that he was actually involved in the Jack the Ripper case as well.
Wow.
This is a must-read, in my opinion, for those of you that want to find out more about H.H. Holmes. You know, we recommended The Devil in the White City months ago, which is another H.H. Holmes book. But this one is quite different. And I wouldn't say that this is a must-read for Jack the Ripper readers, as this story really has little to do with the Ripper. But if you are like me, and if you've heard one Ripper theory, you want to hear them all.
Mm-hmm. And this is a great time to dive into H.H. Holmes with the new movie coming out with Leonardo DiCaprio, our buddy. As if we hang out with him. He'll be playing H.H. Holmes in a new movie coming up, I think, next year.
Yeah, and I believe that movie is based off of the book, The Devil in the White City. So pick up Bloodstains by Jeff Mudgett today, and you can do that by going to our website, truecrimegarage.com, and click on the recommended page, and you will see all of our other recommended books, as well as one of our documentaries that we recommended. And, of course, it goes without saying, but we're going to say it anyway because it's so important. Do not drink and drive, please. No, right. Do not smoke and drive. Don't buzz drive. Do not text and drive. You know, I tell you what, that texting and driving is almost as bad, if not worse than
the worst thing in the world is when you're driving down the road and you see a car swerving into your lane, oncoming traffic, and you know that son of a bitch is just sending a text.
Yeah.
Put down your damn phone.
Yeah. And with New Year's Eve coming up, we know it's a big party night. Make arrangements. Have somebody drop you off. Have somebody pick you up. Call Uber. Yeah. Call a taxi cab.
Call the captain. I'll come pick your ass up.
He's going to be picking people up all night long. So do not drink and drive. Treat yourself good. Be good to yourself and everybody else out there. And, of course, don't litter. We'll see you next week.